Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Welcome to the Board Squad podcast. And today we are talking about the parent police.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with my friends Anna, Monica, and Nicola. And I'm Delise. I always forget about myself. I literally do. Like, we'll get into it, but I was just doing something yesterday and I realized I was like, I didn't talk about myself at all. I just talked about everybody else. I know.
All right.
So, but today we're talking about the parent police. And I've got to say, like, I felt like there was nothing more exhausting than raising your kids. But I found out recently some of the parents can be even more exhausting.
Yeah, they need to be
all
raised.
of their opinions about how you parent your kids.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that today.
Right.
Yes.
So tell me, ladies. Oh, before we get started, though.
Yes.
Let's talk about our board.
Yes.
Look at this charcuterie board.
So this is a very simple mama board. So this is when you are rushing in between getting to your podcast and church, and you still gotta clean up breakfast.
Perfect for a mocha mom meeting.
All the things, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the basics. This is a basic board. You're gonna start out with the cheese. Just pick one as your centerpiece.
Yeah.
So today we have a Boursin cheese.
Love.
It's easy.
Yummy.
And then we have 3 different types of meat. We have a prosciutto, a spicy salami, some pepperoni. Fold them up however you choose. Place them on your board. You need a base layer. So mine is just the water wafer crackers that I love.
They're so light.
And then I have, I really like those. Those are my favorite. And then we have some dill cheese, which is so yummy. And then add your accent pieces. You know me, I'm always going to come through with the vegetables. So we have the cucumbers and then...
Beautifully cut.
Yes, beautifully cut. And then we have some dried fruit, which I know you like to do too, Delise.
She makes her own.
Yes, I made my own too after Delise.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So it's a very simple board.
Love that. God, I want to start eating, but I know we have so much to talk about
You
today.
do.
So, I mean, we're all moms here, right?
moms.
And I think this is something that's relatable even beyond people who are moms. We're always, especially as we start to get older, we have life experience. People are always coming to me with unsolicited advice about how I should be doing things.
Yes.
And more recently, how I should be raising my son. Have you guys experienced this? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I definitely, so I have a big age gap, right? I have a almost 15-year-old and an almost 8-year-old. One of the big things that I get a lot of judgment on and unsolicited advice on is that my family lives on the East Coast and we live on the West Coast. We're the only family that lives here. And since my son was 9, I have been allowing him for the summers to fly home to my mother alone.
Nice.
Wow.
I like that.
A lot of people don't like that.
I like it.
And they like to tell me about why they don't like it. His godmother is a lifetime, she's been a flight attendant. She does luxury flights. And so she was like, you've got to teach him not to have a fear of flying. Maybe this year I'll do something different, but we've let him do it and he's felt a freedom to do that. And also it's helped him to be connected to his family on the East Coast because he's been able to spend the summers with them when I can't get him there. And I'll usually go back and get him. And people, I just can't even tell you when they hear that I do it, they're like, you do what? You let your son fly by himself? I'm like, well, it's a straight flight.
Right.
And we meet the flight attendant at the gate, and then he meets my mother on the other side of the gate, and they're like, that's terrible. I would never do that. How dare you do that? Like, they have very strong opinions
It's so
about
wild
it.
to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you don't have to do it.
True.
For your child, but that's what works
how we
for
kind of grew
us.
up, right? Like, I think kids were much more independent in our generation.
Yes.
And now it's like the helicopter parenting style.
Yes.
But I think it's interesting. So my parents just moved in with me and living with my son. And I think it's interesting that I was on a walk with my mom the other day and I showed her where my ex-husband lives and where I live. And it's literally 2 blocks. The street between it is not a major street. It's a neighborhood street.
Right.
And I just commented to her and I said, yeah, when my son is a little bit older, maybe even this year, he's going to walk back and forth to our house on his own. And she lost it. And I'm like, Mom, I used to walk to the corner store. I used to
Buy
walk to
my
school
own thing.
by myself.
Yeah,
Since
I'm
second
back with
grade.
money.
Like, what? And
Right.
it's like she has completely forgotten that. And
Yeah.
she's like, absolutely not.
No, I know. It's so hard. I think also if you parent boys and girls, there's
Yes.
also a difference. I think parents do a lot more helicoptering of the girls and they don't get to like exude their independence versus boys. And then look, let's be real. Like there's a cultural component too. Like parenting black
Huge.
boys,
Yes.
black kids.
Yes.
You know, my husband is the one, he's got them more on a leash.
Yes.
And I'm more of like Nicola style, like, no, let them go to camp because they need to learn this life experience. Let them do this.
And you mean
da-da-da.
overnight camp?
Yeah, overnight camp. And my daughter's going this year for 2 weeks, and she's going across the country. So we've done that several times here in LA, and she's done amazingly well. She's very independent. But I like that. You know, we forget that we're raising adults. But
Right.
I don't like the judgmentally. So to your point, to come back to that,
Yes.
I don't like it. And look, you got to do your own thing. Like
To
if
each
the-
his own.
Yeah, to each his own. You know?
Absolutely.
You
I
know
agree.
your kid.
I remember when I was really young, I want to say, to Monica's point, like second or third grade, flying to the Bahamas. Like I remember
Oh, wow.
that my grandparents were in early, and I don't remember why. Like maybe it was a school thing. Maybe I wasn't out of school yet and they wanted to go early because they were retired. But I remember being on a plane by myself. I remember like parents like walking me to the gate when you could walk the kids to the gate.
Yes.
You put them on the plane.
Yes.
And so maybe that's a part of it also, that you're not able to do that anymore.
You can
I
do
don't
that
know.
with kids.
Oh,
Yes,
you can.
you can, yes.
So then I don't know what their issue is. No.
But the reason we wanted to talk about this today is because you had an incident
Right.
that happened.
Yes. So
tell
I,
us,
you know,
yeah.
and the challenge for me is that I'm really involved. Every time my son's in a school, I'm involved in all the things. I love building community, not just for him, but for myself. I like the idea of really knowing the parents of my son's friends. That's important to me, you know? And so when you do that, you really kind of develop these deeper relationships, but also there are less boundaries sometimes if people feel like they can
Comments.
just talk
Tell
to
you
you any
anything,
kind of
right?
way. And it's like, no, you really can't, you know? And I'm going to parent my kid the way I want to. One, sometimes it's age, right?
Yeah.
But two, to Anna's point, it's cultural. There's cultural
For sure,
differences.
right. Yeah.
So recently, you know, there was a movie night and everybody was going to the movies, and one mom friend was organizing it, which we absolutely love. But then there was some judgment around the fact that we didn't want to leave him in the theater with the other kids by themselves.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
that
how
was
old
a
are
big
the boys?
thing.
How old are
the
the
boys?
boys?
Are 10,
Yes.
10 and 11 years old.
Yes.
And so they wanted to be able to like, you know, this was the way of like us not being helicopter parents and letting them be independent. And I just felt a lot of judgment around the fact that me and my husband were not ready for him to be in a movie
Yes.
theater by himself.
Yes.
You know, anything can happen.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm not going to say it's a gender thing, but these particular boys, they like to have a good time. You know what I mean?
A little rowdy.
Like they can be a little rough.
like a little
You know what I mean?
stuff.
They like to have fun.
Well, I think when you know your child, right? And you're like,
100%.
I know my child unsupervised with these types of friends. Because, you know, there's friends that add a little gasoline to each other and you know it's just going to be an explosion. With those friends, you're like, absolutely not. They're going to take full advantage. No one's going to hear the movie at all because they're
Right.
going to be running up and down the aisle.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you have to take into account the culture of the boys as well. I mean, I
Yeah.
think for sure,
They're
especially
definitely
around the
different
age of
cultural,
10
yeah.
with your boys,
Yep.
that's where you start to protect them from society and you start to worry about how society looks at them as not children.
Yeah.
And that is a very scary time.
It is. And there's so much on the internet that we see.
Yes.
You know, where these kids, especially now, like I'm hearing all about this trafficking.
Yes.
Right? Like it's crazy and how easy it is.
Yes.
Right? For them to do it. So I could just imagine these boys having a good time. They're focused. They're like, going crazy. And whoever's on the end, it could be somebody on the end.
Yeah.
Somebody sits next to them and slips them something and something could happen. You
Yes.
never know.
Yeah.
Right.
So those are the things that, you
Make you
know,
nervous.
just give me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And And I want him to be independent, though. Like, I want to give him those moments, just not in a movie theater.
Yeah. And I 100%. Yeah.
I know.
Understand that.
I think for us, I mean, we just live in a society where I'm not going to lie. Every time I go into like a public forum, I'm always looking for the exit with like the mass
Same.
shooting. I sit down, I
Especially
have
the
to be in
movies.
an aisle. I look, I do a 360 around the room. Where's the closest exit? Same thing with my kids. Like we kind of do drills. Like you need to know where to go. And, you know, God forbid there's an active shooter
Yes.
in the situation. Like there's active shooter drills
haven't
in
done that
some
with
of the
him.
schools.
That's a
but
good-
the,
yeah.
but
have
the-
to do that.
Great
but
point.
but the most of the active shooting session, like the actual, you know, the
Encounters,
killings,
tragic events.
yes, they only last a few minutes. Which I hate to use the word "only" in front of it, but the point is, if you can just stay still and hide,
Right.
most of the kids know. My daughter knows, like you're supposed to stay still, mom, behind the door, don't move.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between hiding and concealing. Concealing is just covering yourself, but try to hide under something.
Yes.
Be very still and don't move
Right.
until someone comes for you.
Right.
And so if they know that, then at least they're empowered to do
my
something,
gosh.
God forbid, in the moment. And I mean, that's just awful.
It's an awful thing that you have to think
have to
about.
teach
It is.
Yeah, in
your
this day and
kids.
age.
It
I mean,
is.
it's
But
really scary. But the
but
world is scary.
yeah. But I also think teaching your child that makes you feel more comfortable
Yeah.
having them go on their own to do something,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So because you feel that they're
Yeah.
equipped. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of
Prepared.
sense.
Yeah, it's just a tool. And same thing with like earthquake drills. Like
Yeah.
my kids know, like if there's an earthquake, this is the way you come home and I will find you. You
Right.
do not deviate from this route. If that road is no longer there, you just stay there. I will find you. So I think it's really important for us to equip our kids with the tools so they are responsible to manage their own emergency, you know, and just start, you know, your child best, just start where they are and
Yeah.
see what they can do.
But I
Yeah.
think the point of that too is like the world is such a scary place. We don't need the judgment of other parents telling us how the decisions that we're making for our kids
Yeah.
are wrong. Like
Yes. Right.
you can keep that to yourself. I don't need that. I mean, I my favorite parenting story, like you can keep that over there. My favorite parenting story is when my son was 3 and I took him to the mall and he had like a nervous breakdown, like terrible
normal.
threes,
Test, yeah.
and rolling on the floor, the whole thing. I mean, all of it, all the things you would
All
see
the
on
bells and
TV.
whistles.
And I was like, he was crying, and I just started crying because I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I like to be out of control. And this older mother, she came over to me and she put her hand on my arm and she said, "You are doing a great job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Doing a great job."
Yeah.
And these things happen, and I just was so
Thankful.
thankful, and I will never forget that moment. And when I see parents struggling, instead of being like, "Why can't you shut that kid up?"
Yeah.
That is the thing I try to do as
Yes.
a paying it forward, because you don't know what's going on with that person's day or the child's day or what's been
Yeah,
happening
exactly.
and in their lives. And it's how I try to move through the world as a mom with that kind of grace of like, you know what? That's working for her. That's her house. That's her family. And like, I'm doing mine, you do yours, and like, let's keep it moving.
Or just like, you know, give her a high five. Like
Yes.
compliment her.
Yes.
Or just, you know, like show some like solidarity. Girl,
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yes,
Your
absolutely.
child's acting crazy. It's him, not you. Don't worry. You got this.
I know. I
You
love
know,
older
just-
moms like that.
Yeah,
a girlfriend told me a story once because my son used to be like literally a wild animal. Like I'd open the door and then he would just run. And you know, the street's right there. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Like I literally could not wear flip flops for like 3 solid years because I just needed to be like, I needed to be on the ready to
Yes.
go get him. And I was talking to a girlfriend about that. And she's like, my daughter is like a streaker. Like every time she takes off all her clothes and she just will run outside.
Oh my gosh.
And there was a neighbor that saw her daughter doing that. And she's like mortified that this woman saw her.
gosh.
And she walks up to her and she said, I had one of those. I had one of those.
Yes.
And don't worry, she's a lawyer now.
I know. I love
It's just like, okay, all right.
I love that.
Just humanize the experience.
Exactly.
Like, parenting is so hard.
Yeah.
You know, you can just take a page out of, you know, that woman's book and just, you know, be the bigger person. Stop judging. You
Yes,
don't know what's
totally.
happening in their lives. And just show support.
Absolutely.
You know, that's it. Or just say nothing.
Yeah.
Or just say nothing.
Or say nothing. If you have nothing nice to say.
Keep going.
Yeah, I just, you know, it's tough, but I appreciate you guys because I feel like in the middle of all of the craziness that we each have in our lives, you all do that. Like we all support each other,
Yes.
and regardless of like how crazy our kids may be in one moment or whatever, we're all supportive.
Yes.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking for that. I'm still looking for it outside.
I
I got it inside, but not outside
But
sometimes.
Delise, like I gotta give it to you. Like you're amazing. Like the way you show up for your kid.
Yes.
Yep.
Like you are devoted to every single
And intentional.
project.
Absolutely.
Every like you're the parent mom. The parent mom sucks. I never wanted to be the parent mom. But Delise is always like, I'll do it. I was like, oh my gosh. Because you
Yeah.
have to do all the things, teacher appreciation,
Yes.
breakfast and lunch, dinner. I mean,
It's a thing.
you're an amazing mama. Come on.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that so much.
absolutely.
Have you, speaking of this topic, have you encountered a mom who is that person to you guys, like where you've had to set a boundary?
Well, it's so funny. I passed this on to you guys this week, but there was this mom on the internet, if we're talking about being judgmental, who I was laughing because I was like, I probably would judge that. I wouldn't say anything. But she was at Disneyland and she had her 10 and 12-year-old kids in a stroller.
What?
Oh.
Wow.
Were how much do they weigh? Like
So you
little
were
I
kids?
don't know because she didn't have a picture of the kid. She just said, she said, you guys can judge me, but I'm bringing my kids stroller to Disneyland so
Wow.
that when they get tired, they can sit in the stroller and I don't have to listen to them complain. When we go to the fireworks, I'm not walking
Wow.
them. She's like, I have this double stroller and they sit in it.
Girl, that stroller
Wow.
is broke.
Well,
that
she-
stroller,
I mean, that must have been an intense
Well,
stroller.
I was like,
I mean,
So-
to her credit, maybe she's getting an extra workout.
That's what she said.
She's got arm day,
Like,
leg
that's
day.
true.
She said
Leg
it makes
day.
her
she got
life
a back
easier.
injury.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
know.
like,
The kids could have medical issues.
No, they don't.
Look at Anna from the doctor.
Their medical
From the
issue is
doctor.
that
Trying to
they're
get rid of
lazy.
I love
They
it.
She
complain.
doesn't wanna
At
hear
the
the
end of the day,
complaining.
she
Hilarious.
she brings it.
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
wow.
So
I would put myself in the stroller and
Yeah,
let
same.
I
Let them
know.
push me.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I mean,
that's genius.
Facts. That is genius. That's a mom hack.
Facts. That's a mom hack.
That's a mom hack. I love that.
Shout out to our mom hacks episode. Yes. So what about these group chats though? Let's talk about these group chats. I know y'all in some group chats.
Yes.
How do you
it's a
protect
lot.
your peace in the group chat when
I
people
just exit the
because people
chat.
talk to you crazy. They're not
Yes.
just talking to you per se. They've now said something crazy to you in a group of 100 people.
Oh, it's rough.
How do you handle that?
I exit the chat.
Yeah.
I know. I drink my water and mind my business.
sip?
I leave.
Little sip.
Delete. I just put it on mute. But you know yourself. I
Yeah.
think it's just that person they felt empowered to not disrespect your boundaries, but to ignore your boundaries, right?
Right.
So that is already telling me what kind of person you are.
Got it.
I'm not going to take advice from you. You
Right.
don't know my situation.
Right.
You are not qualified unless I'm paying you
Right.
to give me parental advice
Right.
about the situation. You are not qualified
Yeah, that's a
more
good way
than
to see
I
it.
am
Yes.
to tell me about my children,
Yeah.
my household, my lives, what I'm doing,
You're saying
etc.
protect your
Right.
peace.
Yeah, so protect your peace. We
Yeah.
are in, we're supposed to be like falling into the soft life era. So
That's right.
We do not
Girl.
need this
Trying.
drama. We do not
Trying.
need
Soft
it.
life.
Let that happen.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's
oh my
my
gosh.
mission.
Yes.
This has been great.
Yes.
Always a spirited conversation.
Always.
But I think some of the takeaways that I got, and I would love for our boardies to take away, is that motherhood is not a competition.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yes.
This
Oh
is
my
not
goodness.
a courtroom, and we
No.
are not on trial.
Right.
You have
Yes.
maybe you've read the blog or the book, or you heard it from your friend who's an expert.
Yep.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that advice is appropriate for your child or your life.
For
Exactly.
sure.
It's not one size fits all.
It is
I
not.
agree.
Right?
Yep.
And so we just want to say thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I know we can talk. I feel like every episode we're like, there should be a part two.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need
So
a part
maybe
two for
there'll be a
everything.
part two.
Maybe.
But thank you again for joining us for this week, talking about the parent police. And please follow us on all of the socials, YouTube, and I'm not
Spotify.
even going to listen. I'm not going to list them all because I'm going to mess them up.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.